And good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Welcome to Children of the Sun, a show dedicated to positive energy from a fifth dimensional point of view. We're here on AM 970 WSTX every Friday afternoon, 12:30 to 2:30 Atlantic Standard Time. Atlantic Standard, because we are broadcasting out of the turquoise waters of the Caribbean from beautiful St. Croix. So I want to say good afternoon to all my listeners in Christiansted, Frederickstead, Kings Hill, why not? Buck Island, why not? Sister Islands in the USVI, St. Thomas, St. John, Water Island, Sister Islands in the Caribbean, Tortola, Joss Van Dyke, British Virgin Islands in general, Up Island, Down Island, St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, Aruba, and good afternoon, welcome to the show, welcome to the weekend to Puerto Rico. I know you're going through some struggles right now, and the Florida Keys. You guys can hear us on the AM signal if the ionosphere is cooperating, but actually, good afternoon, welcome to the program, welcome to the weekend to the world, because we are also broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, sometimes Twitch TV even. So want to just say welcome to everyone, love to everyone in the world. Like I say, the show is dedicated to positive energy and people who are contributing positive energy, either locally, nationally, or globally. And my guest today certainly fits into that last category. It's having an effect worldwide from his humble homestead in New Mexico. So Jesse, welcome to the program. Jesse Boudreau is my guest for today's Children of the Sun. Jesse, welcome to the program.
Greetings, Ray. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Let me just, we'll warm up by reading your bio. So let me get your bio, and I'm going to read your bio to the folks. Jesse Boudreau is a permaculture designer, a homesteader, and an herbalist in northern New Mexico. He is a Taoist and Buddhist and has been on the Pranic path for 4.5 years, at which time he transitioned from raw food and fasting to the liquidarian lifestyle. He now is dry fasting 23 hours daily and juicing for an hour daily. Jesse's path of prana incorporates grounding, that's good, sungazing, Qigong, meditation, fasting, herbalism, and connecting with the 4 elements of earth, wind, fire, and water daily. The practice of cultivating the life of people and plants is a key part of his passion, profession, and philosophy. And he has a website, ziapermaculture.com. You should check that out. www.ziapermaculture, all one word.com. And he's going to be hosting an online fasting and pranic living class. So you can come to that from wherever you are. And that'll be on October 8th. You can find that on Eventbrite. I'll put up some links to it with the show notes for the program. So that is all really great. And Jesse, welcome to the program. I'm going to put you up and get myself on. There we are. Nice smiling face. New Mexico looks sunny right now.
Oh, it is. We've had a little bit of rain, but it's usually pretty sunny here. We have many days of sun.
Now you look all bright and full of energy, full of sunlight, full of prana. I mean, so your bio is probably a whole lot of things there that some of my listeners may not even know what they are. Maybe, well, what exactly is a herbalist? I mean, it's, sometimes people might think that's like, Julia Child and which kind of parsley to use for which French dish, but I think you're into it a lot more than that. So tell us about your herbalism. What does that mean to you?
So herbalism is a modality of healing, utilizing plant medicine, of all kinds. It's essentially, it was the form of medicalism across the earth until fairly recently, until basically industrialization, just maybe a couple 150 years or so, where, people turned more towards, a lot of our modern day medicines are essentially derived from plants, but chemically synthesized in a laboratory. And so it's just, connecting in with the plants that are around you, but also now in this day and age, we have access to plants worldwide that we can use for the aspect of healing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's not a coincidence that plants are around you with people and animals. They get sick. I don't know how to put this. It's like if you're sick, there's probably a plant near you that is exactly what you need. It's like it's no coincidence. And I also, the plants I've read where people
Ooh, it's breaking up really bad, brother. Kind of froze up. You're frozen still, my brother.
that there's plants have ingredients in it that plants have ingredients in them that they don't even know about.
Indeed. Yeah, it's absolutely the case that the medicines you need are usually growing right around you, the plant medicines. And if you just think about the logic of it, hundreds of years ago, people didn't have access to hospitals and modern day medicines. It was a working knowledge that had been growing over generations of understanding the plants that were right around you that you could use for healing.
Yeah.
And even the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." That the things that grow around you, even the food stuff, can be medicine or poison. And even poisons you can use for healing if for what ailment and proper dosage and administration of the herb. So it's it's an ancient craft. It's something that is sort of going through a renaissance right now, where people are wanting to have, especially through this like global health crisis, access to ways to heal themselves cheaply and naturally and with what's around them. So it's really, there's a lot to it, but in simplistic terms, it's just using plants to heal.
Using plants to heal. But so how many herbs and plants like do you teach about, do you know about? And I know you resonate especially with the Taoist approach to it. Maybe talk a little bit about what that approach is like, and like if people are working with you, how you talk to them about what the different plants are, and can you like could the average person pare it down to like 5 essential and 10 nice to have, or if they have like a really special condition, they got to do like 200. But because you're such a wealth of encyclopedic knowledge, how do you think about all the different plants and what people should do?
Well, according to the Taoist, there's 3 classes of herbal medicines. There's like the superior class of herbs, and those are tonic.
I want that. I want those.
Those are the best ones. They're ones that you can use as a food. You can use daily, and there'll never be contraindications for them. So these are things like a lot of the medicinal mushrooms, like reishi and lion's mane and cordyceps, and they tend to be adaptogenic or dual directional, which means, like with respect to reishi, it has an affinity for the immune system. So if you have autoimmunity, something like lupus or HIV, it'll bring your immune system down a little bit. And if you have low immunity, it'll bring it up. So there's a vast number of Taoist tonic herbs, and those are things that I really like to work with because of this being never contraindicated, and they're only going to essentially make you more adaptive, or different organ systems, your respiration or your immune system, or what have you. And so those are things like the top ones are like reishi, ginseng, astragalus. There's quite a few, things like gynostemma, Siberian ginseng, goji berries, but these don't always grow everywhere on the earth. And I'm very fond of connecting in with the wild foods and medicines that are around you in your locale, and that there's certain plants and foods that follow the human footprint everywhere that people can connect with and use as foodstuffs that are going to be superior foods. Things like grass juice. All the grasses worldwide are edible. You can take the juice and grass it, and the grass and juice it. And that's really super high in chlorophyll and nutritive value, and essentially can be just very nourishing to the blood and basically your whole body. It's more nutrient dense than most of the foods we buy from the store by a lot.
Wow.
There's things like malva, which I know you're in the islands there. Hibiscus is in the malva family, for instance. And those are,
we have hibiscus. People make we make like a kind of infusion from it, hibiscus tea, but it's usually served cold.
Right. Yeah. So this is the kind of the thing, is a lot of the stuff is already there and being used, has been traditionally used. And that's, been part of the journey for me, is realizing that things that people did traditionally, they did for a reason, and especially sort of regionally specific. But there's lots of plants. There's actually, this 13, there are things like alfalfa, clover, chickweed, dandelion, dock, grass, knotweed, lamb's quarter, the mallows, mustards, purslane, plantain. And I don't mean plantain like plátanos, like the bananas, but it's a little green leaf. And thistle. So those are some herb foods that like they, wherever human beings have disturbed soil, these plants pop up.
Cool.
But then there's there's a lot of regionality to it. It's part of my whole approach is that food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So depending on where you are, like, in the Caribbean islands there's lots of coconut, and coconut is an amazing superfood. So that's another thing I'm really into, is the whole thing of superfoods, which are essentially just foods that have been staple foods across the planet. Here in New Mexico, there are things like blue corn, which is high in antioxidants, and another one that's popular world round is like aloe, that's
Right,
very
yeah.
emulsient and will heal like your gastrointestinal tract, and is very nourishing. So I tend to work with these food things and share that in classes, and I like to share about how we're all an amalgamation of the elements of earth, wind, fire, and water. That
Yep.
and this ties in with the Taoist alchemical perspective of healing, as well as Ayurvedic understanding of, we could think of it in modern terms of like solid, liquid, gas, and energy, but it's also has to do with like constitution, sort of the endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph typology, but that, and that relates in Ayurveda to like kapha, pitta, and vata. So kaphas tend to be more heavy set, has a little more earth and water energy in them. Pitta is fire. They tend to be like athletic build, very energetic. Vata tends to be tall, thin, really intelligent, but also maybe ungrounded, and so we can utilize, we can see in plants also this reflection of earth, wind, fire, and water in terms of their action on different organ systems, whether they're warming and drying or cooling and moistening, and the 5 flavors of salty, sweet, bitter, pungent, and sour, and how these have different actions in the body. So, like sweet is building and nourishing. Salty is building but grounding. Sour is astringent and will relieve water from the body, in cases of like edema, for instance.
Okay.
And then pungency tends to be like, think of like ginger or chili or garlic. It tends to be circulatory, and bitters tend to be digestive. That shudder you get when you eat something bitter is actually your vagus nerve being triggered, so that your body goes into digestion and starts excreting bile and things like that for digestion.
That sounds like it would be a healthy and good thing to do from time to time.
Yeah, generally speaking, culturally worldwide, we're accustomed to sweet and salty, which is basically diabetes or hypertension,
Yeah.
And we really need all 5 flavors, for the best digestion and assimilation, and sort of well-roundedness in our diet. And that is in a lot of cooking, because people just intuited a lot of this stuff, and over time honed it, and it became, like I said before, traditions that people started to utilize as part of daily life. So and then there's also,
did you ever like wonder how the very first person who put a plant in his mouth knew it would heal him and not kill him?
They actually did studies on this. They were wondering how it was, that people, it was long thought that people and animals, like, they would eat this, and then Uncle Clyde died from eating that, and so they didn't eat that anymore,
That's a clue.
But so they did a study where they took bonobo monkeys and they put them on an island where they didn't know any of the indigenous flora or fauna, and they found that the animals were able to intuit and just know what they need. And it's because their body is like this highly sensitive biochemical laboratory. It's part of our sense meditation that we've lost, because we just go over for what's cravings we have, or habits. But
wow,
you know,
so your body knows even if you don't.
yep, through, beginning with smelling and tasting, like with the tip of your tongue, like if you're going to have anaphylaxis to something and you just take a tiny bite and roll it around your tongue, you'll start to feel it itch in your throat instantaneously. So you'll know that that's something that's not good for you, and it's something we try to teach people, because we take people out on walks and get them accustomed to wild foods, and try to get people to drop into a sort of a sense meditation where they're connecting with their sense faculties and how these things feel in their body by slowly, with a slow gentle approach where you don't just jump in and have a big meal of something that a foraging book tells you is edible, but you start on an empty belly and you take one little nibble. After you look at it, you smell it, you taste it, let it roll in your mouth and take a little bit down and see if you can sense where it's hitting in your body and how it feels for you. Then you can start to like reappropriate this awareness of what is medicine and what is not, because we're all uniquely different in our constitution and our genealogical sort of past and healing needs. So it's a process of relearning to trust ourselves and trust our inner
Yeah.
awareness and guidance. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking about the other thing you are into is homesteading, and I was thinking, as you were talking about the herbs and the foods, we can get the earth supplies everything we need, all the food that we need to eat and all the medicine that we need if we get sick. But then other people come along and insert themselves into the middle of it as middlemen, regulating what you get and how you get it. And so as a homesteader, you become free of that and you have your own food and your own medicine. And I guess you live off the grid as well, as much as possible. I mean, talk to us about homesteading in general, like why you're interested in it, and or maybe in particular, what are the challenges and opportunities in New Mexico?
Yeah, so homesteading, herbalism, and the Pranic lifestyle have all attracted me just because of the inborn desire for freedom and sovereignty, and so
Right.
and growing into this awareness and living this way in which we can know that we are we are all we need. Our inner resources in our bodies have within them everything we need to provide for our own needs, and so homesteading, here in New Mexico, it's very dry. It's very challenging to grow all the food you want, and so I have been working towards that goal of growing everything that I need for my family and myself. And so it's seasonal too, where we have cold winters and snow and all of that. So it's that whole thing of it gets you moving in rhythm with the seasons. So spring, you got to get out there and get planting, and you're starting to harvest like the wild edibles that are coming up, the dandelion greens and mallow and things that are starting to present themselves at the same time as you're getting your garden ready. I like to practice something called permaculture, which is a design system that is kind of this man, Bill Mollison, and a few others have put together, as well as other people on the planet who are kind of dawning upon it on their own, like Masanobu Fukuoka, and learning to create perennial systems like a forest. So here behind me, you can kind of see maybe a little bit my food forest, where I have it designed such that I have an overstory, an understory, shrubbery layer, and herbaceous layer of all perennial foods. That means foods that will grow back year after year, you know, and I have try to grow as much a variety as possible so that I'm not leaning on one crop. And I have things like nuts in there and fruits in there and, you know, berries and greens and herbs and, you know, for cooking, but also medicinally. Um, so between that and learning foraging, I do what I can to I have an apothecary inside where I have stored up, you know, wild mushrooms and teas and plant medicines, and I make tinctures and salves and stuff to keep on hand. We harvest, you know, and dry things or freeze them or can them, you know, and uh, so it's this way, you know, it's basically going. I'm a bit of a Luddite, maybe. I like the old way of living, you know, to be in connection with the earth, you know, and to be connected with my food. One of my teachers says, you know, if your relationship with food breaks down, all of your other relationships break down, because this is the basic fundamental relationship we have with the earth. And like you
Yeah,
were
I mean,
saying,
I know, you know, they say that we have modern conveniences, but it just seems like the closer you are to the soil and the simpler your life, the more happy and grounded you are, and the more involved, you know, the more that people are going to fast food restaurants and grocery stores, is they're more disconnected and unhappy. And I know, I mean, I notice that as a definite feature of life. It's hard not to see it. Once you become aware of it, you start seeing it everywhere.
yeah, everything has been commodified. Everything is put into the supply and demand chain, you know, for the interest of, you know, economics and people pursuing businesses. And I'm all for business, but it's this thing of like, there's got to be a balance, you know, a
Yeah.
harmonization of sorts, where we're not depleting the earth and we're not robbing people of the fulfillment, you know, of and skill set, and that is also connected with our individual sovereignty, our ability to, you know, say what goes, you know, or we're at
Yeah.
the whim of the system as it is. And if, you know, we had, like, a lot of people are talking about the potential of a grand solar flash that would maybe knock out all of the Earth's grid systems, and how that would fundamentally be extremely problematic worldwide in terms of the supply and demand chain, you know, in terms
Yep.
of people's basic needs for food and medicine, you know. So uh, that's been in the back of my mind. I'm more, I just want to live this life anyways. I want to be, you know, I want to get up in the morning and have my feet bare on the ground and out in the sun, you know, and growing food for my family, knowing where it comes from, knowing that it's fresh. Most of the food we buy, you know, especially here in the States, is grown somewhere else and then picked green, shipped a long way. It's losing its nutrient density during the whole while. You know, it's losing its biophotonic energy, you know, and it's, you know, they say, even just from modern industrial farming practices, that an orange from 50 years ago, you have to eat 6 oranges today to have the equivalency of nutrition of that one orange. Um, so this is going to be
Wow.
negatively effective to the future generations if we don't, you know, take responsibility for our soil and our local food systems, and cut out all of the, uh, you know, sort of embedded energy and carbon and what have you in our modern systems, where food is moving all over the planet at great distances. You know, if we can get into local food sheds, you know, and healing the soil, because the soil actually also, um, what do you call it? you can store carbon in the soil, through plants and through the microbiome of the soil, all the different fungi and bacteria and stuff. There's actually 90% of life lives below the soil, and the rest of it is up above. So through tilling, through chemical agriculture, through the use of things like Roundup and glyphosate, we're destroying that soil ecology, which is so fundamental to our life and the life of all the life up here on the surface of the planet. So
I mean, and doing that probably contributes to global warming because it's not keeping the carbon out. It's not sequestering the carbon.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, sequestration.
But that was really an amazing thing you said a little bit ago. You would have to eat 6 oranges from today, six of today's oranges to get the nutrition of 1 orange from 50 years ago.
Yep, that's right.
That's how much we've depleted things.
Exactly.
So it's going, even beyond and above, whether it's organic or not, you're just not even getting the nutrition.
Yep. Yeah,
wow,
and that's another way in which we've been, sold a false bill of goods or had the middleman separate us from true health is, the whole thing of organics. According to Fukuoka, organic food should be cheaper than chemically produced food. If you think about it, there's not all this cost of tractors and chemicals and all that stuff that's subsidized by governments, so that it is cheaper. And then the organic farmer that's small has to charge more just to keep their livelihood together. And so I'm all about like education and revivifying, getting people to homestead at their own place, whatever level. You can have a very small yard or even a balcony in which you grow some food in some pots and get yourself some, free food. And food should be, we're the beings of highest consciousness, and yet we're the only beings that pay to live on this planet. All the other beings live from what is here, and we actually fill an ecological niche when we insert ourselves into the garden and grow things, and we start doing carbon sequestration. We make habitat for bees, and then it aids to community resilience. If everyone had a backyard garden, and the food system goes down, we still have food, and we can trade and have this resilience through growing for ourselves. So
if someone wanted to start a backyard permaculture garden, do you have like information available for them, or like a basic simple thing they could start with before they started getting really big and complicated?
Well, small is beautiful. Even if you could just grow one little garden bed with some tomatoes and some greens or some whatever your favorite annual foodstuffs are, that gets you connected with it. It's also part of the health path that I try to teach and live from is when you're physically grounded and touching the earth, your body is absorbing probiotic from the soil. You're exchanging negative electrons that are healing you. When you're in the sun, when you're in the sun, you're getting your body is creating vitamin D, which improves your immunity. When you're outside, you're getting greater oxygenation by like 100 times than when you're inside. You're getting that air, earth, wind, fire, and water, and when you're connected with your waters and you realize how precious they are because they build our bodies, and, we won't be polluting them, so all that happens when you just step outside and work in a little plot in your garden. So you can start with one little bed and, working with permaculture concepts such as biodiversity and biointensive gardening, where you're layering things and growing vertically. So, for instance, you could be growing like cucumbers or melons on a trellis, as well as like your tomatoes, as well as like, you know, maybe broccoli and mixed greens, all in like a layered system, you know, that's really tight, and you know, that there's a lot in a small space. That actually helps, in terms of like, there's certain plants, for instance, that aid one another, that will build the soil for one another, or like garlic, for instance, is anti-pathogenic. So you can plant that like with your fruit trees, and or, you know, things like comfrey that will build the soil. You know, you can plant that with your fruit trees, and that will keep, you know, things like gophers away, or not so much that, but more like pathogenic bacteria.
Okay.
In terms of garlic.
So they kind of work together like a team and protect each other.
Exactly. So you're seeking to build guilds, and through observation of nature, we can see ways in which nature does this already, and just mimicry of that. So you can go from that all the way up to creating like a food forest in your backyard, where you have like, I'm trying to think of like St. Croix there, like, you know, you may have, you know, coconuts at the top, you know, layer, at the overstory layer. And then under that, you may have some citrus, you know, and under that, you may have like some hibiscus and some aloe, you know, and under that, you know, you're maybe planting, I don't know, mints or things for tea, you know, whatever plants there that have that like herbaceous layer. And you could grow that in combination with your beds that are growing, you know, in this layered system of like, you know, cucumbers or melons or whatever, and, you know, tomatoes. And so you can interplant your perennials with your annuals and have, you know, a great diversity of food. Because that's one of the big problems, is what's happening right now with agriculture is they till large swaths of land. They plant it with one plant. The tilling alone destroys the structure of the microorganisms in the soil. It releases carbon. More carbon is released every year through tillage of soil than from us driving automobiles, for instance, because it's been made inert over centuries, you know, and millennia, by plants and by microorganisms. And when we turn it up, we're actually desertifying the planet and releasing more carbon into the air. So and then also, if it has to be chemically sprayed, because if one little blight or one little pest comes in, then it can knock out thousands of acres of food, you know. But when you have this diversity going on, if something comes in, it just knocks out a little bit, and you still have all these other foods, you know.
Yeah, I've been reading lots of articles lately about how our global food supply is in jeopardy from drought, because we have such a monoculture, like 3 basic food crops. And it's like, just knowing practically nothing about any of this, I'm just saying, you know, common sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. It does make common. It seems common to be common sense. Common sense is increasingly uncommon, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if you need billions of dollars a year in subsidies to keep your food thing going, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah, and it leads to this poor nutrition, you know, where we have a limited amount of foods, and we're depleting the soil. So I see as us being beings of higher consciousness, that this is our responsibility to the other beings here and to ourselves, you know, kind of like, you know, you don't leave your home a mess, you know. You gotta keep your house together, you know, or it'll fall apart, literally, you know.
Well, I mean, so that's part of like your whole path that you're pursuing is higher consciousness. And you mentioned a couple of times like sovereignty, and you have everything within your body that you need. So that's why you're doing this prana dry fast, 23 hours of dry fasting, and then 1 hour of juicing, liquidarian lifestyle. And that's like, you know, heading towards ultimate freedom. So um, you talk about that, define that, because some people listening to this show don't know what liquidarian means. They don't know what pranic lifestyle means, and they may not even know what a dry fast means. And so talk about like what that is at 23 hours and then 1 hour. Like, would that be considered intermittent fasting?
It's a form of intermittent fasting, but it's a very extreme form. It's something I've built. It's not something I would suggest people jump right into. It's something
you built up to it. You didn't just do it overnight.
It took me about a decade to get to this point, and really what it is the recognition that we are energy beings first and foremost. And as I was, exploring this path of healing, through plants and the elements, and, a chemical sort of occult understanding from the Taoists and from the Buddhists and from the, Ayurvedic tradition, there's this whole concept of Qi or prana, which is the energy or life force that runs through everything. And literally your body is electric. You have electricity running through you. And it's measurable. And so there's ways that the ancients knew to develop this and refine it. And actually many of them, in more numbers than we realize, I wouldn't say many, it's not like the majority, but many people learn to live completely without food or water. And it's through the development of, through practice, through there's sort of 6 limbs. There's sexual energy cultivation, or temperance, that your sexual energy, like a plant, like when a plant sets fruit and seed, it expends itself and then it has to reseed. Similarly, this is like, especially in the case of men and women, but in the case of men, your cerebral spinal fluid is your seminal fluid. And so as we are, if we're not temperate with our sexual energy, we lose our energetic health, and our vitality. And this is something they talk about in Taoism, but that sexual energy is also connected with just your creative energy and your, the things you do, and, and within like the realm of like work, for instance, if you're trading your time and you're not getting a good return on your investment of energy, you're going to deplete your energy, so trying to find, an energetic balance so that you don't come home completely wiped and stressed out at the end of the day,
Right.
So there's that end of things there, and how that bleeds into relationship. There's also nutrition and fasting. So a lot of people are getting into fasting in this day and age, and there's been lots of medical science starting to vet the amazing benefits of fasting, and how actually by overeating, which our whole global culture does, we deplete ourselves energetically, because your body has to, exude enzymes and energy to break down excess food, and then your metabolism can never go into autophagy and clean up metabolic waste. And so the whole system starts to get more sluggish, and we get this over accumulation in our bodies, especially from certain foods. But and that we're also primarily beings of water. We need water. If you think about it, anyone could go many weeks without food. People can go less long without water, and even less so without the breath. So that goes into the next thing of like breath work and energy cultivation through things like meditation and Qigong and yoga that, open up the fascia and keep the spine straight. And so this energy, this electricity can flow through our bodies, let's see, I kind of hit 3 of them. What are the other ones? I have to think for a moment. I'm ill prepared offhand. So yeah, on the other side of nutrition, like giving yourself the best foods, you know, biophotonic rich foods or raw foods tend to be more rich in electricity. There's something called Kirlian photography, where you can like slice an apple and take a picture of it and see the photons that are coming off of it. If you cook that same apple, it's going to have less water, less nutrient, and less photons, you know. So
Yeah.
it's there's things like sungazing and grounding, where you're gathering negative ions from the earth, and or sungazing is a practice, an ancient Vedic practice that you do first hour or last hour of the day, where you stare at the sun, and your eyes being a windows to the soul. You know, this is actually bringing energy into the body. It's stimulating your pineal gland and
Right.
decalcifying it. It's processing stress hormones like cortisol, and it builds this relationship with water, and grounding and sun gazing builds in your body something called exclusion zone water, which is like a liquid crystal jelly, a fourth phase of water that on one side has a negative charge and the other side has a positive charge. So this is like a body battery, as is eating more raw foods, where you're getting your body to be more alkaline, because when the deep side of alkalinity burns less than the shallow side of acidity, and most disease is inflammation. When we eat acidic foods or even have acidic thoughts, this starts to burn up our body. So it's like this recognition and awareness practice. And so I've started off with doing raw foods. I had a healing crisis come where I found myself allergic to, basically, lactose, casein, and gluten. So I couldn't do dairy and I couldn't do wheat and all that stuff. And as a Buddhist, I'd been wanting to try vegetarianism for a long time. So I transitioned into raw foods, and that just totally changed my life. I had such an amazing healing journey working with raw foods, and that's what got me involved with also more with growing food and finding all these herbal medicines, to work with, because I just started feeling better and better, energetically, spiritually, physically. I just happy.
And what about clarity of mind?
Definitely all of that. And you just have, when your body doesn't have to exude like your enzymes and energy and everything to break food down, but because your raw food has enzymes in it and energy in it, and when you work with fasting and you clean up this your metabolism so that everything can run efficiently, more energy can go into cognition, and you definitely just leaps and bounds of moving into like more brightness, which is I think of it as enlightenment, that we're all intrinsically intelligent, and we all have the potential for consistently improving enlightenment by bringing more light into our body, literally more electricity into our life, and making our bodies more electric. So that's kind of a short.
Yeah, it's like when you stop over consuming poison, it's amazing how much better you feel.
It's incredible. And it's, I remember early on in the journey, like, having a salad and just getting like giddy and happy and laughing and almost like high, and my wife would be like, "What's up with you?" And I was just like, "Oh, the salad is so good," and I was just, after years of struggling with, I was eating organically and studying permaculture and practicing that, but I was burning my sexual energy, because I was an oversexed young male. I was burning my creative energy, in that I was like going to work for long hours and stressing too much. I was eating foods that were poisonous to me and drinking alcohol and things that were it's poison, coffee and all these things were creating inflammation and stagnation and pain and disease, and the contrast of moving away from that to being in true health, and being liberated, was just so amazing and so fun that, I've been on a journey and mission ever since, to share this with as many people as I can, because I think this is the divine commons of humanity.
So what is the 23 hours a day dry fast thing about? And then only eating 1 hour. How long have you been doing this now?
I think it's like my 120th day.
So no solid foods for 120 days.
Yep. And I've been actually liquidarian for 4.5 years at this point.
So now you just like shrunk the window where you actually drink the liquid to 1 hour a day.
That's right.
So what's the thinking behind it? Why do you want to go 23? I mean, I guess part of that's you're asleep. But you're basically not eating all day except for 1 hour. And does that include the prep time? Because it takes you a while to juice up everything.
No, that doesn't include the prep time. I get everything set, and
you're allowing yourself to eat for 1 hour or to drink for 1 hour.
That's right.
Okay, so what is why are you doing it? Why are you doing this? What's the thinking behind it?
So this is part of moving towards that pranic state, like I was telling you about, where it was part of the dawning as I got into fasting, is that we don't even really need a lot of the herbal foods and medicines. Our body knows how to self-heal,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, you do need to work with these other modalities of like the breath, particularly, and getting out in nature, because you can't just stop eating food. Being an energetic being, you need energy from other places, and this can also be things like, joyful relationship or meaningful work. But the whole idea is that we are energy beings, and that we don't really need anything. We're self-organized energy beings. Your body is a piezoelectric, pyroelectric carbon silica crystal, and your DNA and your pineal gland are transmitter receivers of light and energy. And so, even if you just think, or like if you think of like the quantum, potential of your biology, that we're enmeshed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and that if you split one of your atoms, there's so much energy in one of your atoms, it would cause a cataclysmic explosion, So it's moving into that awareness through practice, in a practical way, that we are energy beings and that we're self-organized completely. So, and dry fasting, just to detail that's, no food or water. So 1 day of dry fasting is like 3 days of water fasting, because the body will get into the interstitial waters and cleaning out, because we get this accumulation, of heavy metals, of, toxic substances, things like glyphosate that get into your deep tissue that, it is hard to wash out. But if you do dry fasting, it starts to wring out those interstitial waters, infiltrate the kidneys in a greater way. You can get, crystallization of your kidneys just from the minerals in your water, or too much salt, So,
so like if you're dry fasting, you're not drinking, your body is going after whatever water it can find, and it starts pulling out these interstitial waters that normally don't get used and purified. I mean, you're basically getting out the old stuff that may be full of heavy metals and toxins from years ago. I don't know about you, but when I was a child, the mosquito truck would come by in the neighborhood spraying mosquito spray and be like this fog, and all the neighborhood kids would run and play in it. We'd run behind the truck, jumping up and down. It was always the coolest thing. and nobody stopped us, none of the adults, and it was DDT. So I like grew up playing in DDT. So I'm sure I got, yeah. And I don't think it was, I'm not the only person. Anybody that grew up in a mosquito rich area back in those years probably has a similar experience.
I was just talking with a man about this, who was at one of our classes in the last couple of weeks, and just how the prevalent use of DDT was until they found out how toxic it is, and I just thought, yeah, we'll just throw this toxic stuff everywhere, and we're still doing that, with other things like glyphosate, which glyphosate, if you're not aware what that is, it was Agent Orange. It was used to clear the jungles of Vietnam by destroying the microbes in the soil and making it so the plants couldn't live, and when you get, it's a really strong antibiotic. And when we get that in us, it does the same thing with our microbiome and our ability to digest and assimilate food, so we have like all this pressure on us from chemical agriculture, food that is less nutrient dense, our microbiome of our own bodies being compromised and unable to assimilate, and all of it is, connected with our eating patterns and habits, culturally and individually. So, that's the other thing about growing your food, or just buying organics even, is you're changing that system. You're not upholding and putting energy into that system that is depleting us all. And so, yeah, and I know I grew up eating plenty of McDonald's and kinds of junk food. Oh, looks like.
Hi there. Oh, start video. Okay, we're back. Got disconnected for a second there.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got most of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, how much of this is really ready to give up food entirely, but the mind wants to hold on to your little 1 hour of indulging?
So that becomes a thing, is there's this intimate connection between body and mind, and you have to give love and allowance to both and so I've built this over a long time. First I was doing raw foods and then eventually I just wasn't interested in my smoothie at breakfast anymore. Started having it at like lunchtime around 12 or 1. And then eventually I moved to 1 meal a day of raw foods, and it wasn't, all of this was unintended. I had learned about breatharianism, which, that's what a lot of people call this, or inedia, partly from the sungazing practitioner that I was listening to, because at that time when I was having, this health crisis, I needed to heal my body and my mind. So I started meditating again, started sungazing, and this practitioner of sungazing was saying like, yeah, if you do this long enough, you can transfer your needs from the sun rather than from food. And all of the while I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool? But I didn't think I was actually going there. But by the consistency and practice of these things, of fasting, of eating right, of sun gazing and meditation and honoring your energy, it just naturally builds. So I released breakfast, I released lunch, and then I started getting into fasting more, just out of interest. And all the while I'm like studying all this esoteric stuff from the Taoists and from Ayurveda, and running into interesting people like my teacher Ellie Tom, who has been living without food or water for a long time. He came out and taught with me here at my homestead, and we were together for like 2 weeks or so, and he didn't eat or drink one little bit, and we hiked all over the desert, and he was bike riding back and forth.
Yeah, Elatom Elamim, he's been a guest on my program, and Yeah, so you were with, and he has not eaten for like 20, 30 years. I forget exactly how old he is, but and you know, a lot of people have the same experience. They're with him for weeks, and they can tell you he does not eat. This is not some like he's pretending or anything. It's like we're around him all the time. He's not eating.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a state of total freedom, you know. I remember
Yeah, if you don't have to, that really, if you don't have to eat, then that gives you all kinds of space.
Mm-hmm. I remember him walking around with me and looking at me with a glint in his eye and just being like, you know what this means, right? We can do anything, you know.
Wait, what did he say? You know what this means? What?
We can do anything.
Oh, right. Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I was saying that on one of my Zoom classes. It's like, I'm just doing this to show you that what's possible for human beings. Like anything is possible. You don't need to be living in a conditioned, small, little, limited thinking box.
Exactly. That's the main thing to hack is our minds. You know, we've been told about all of our limitations, but all of them are, our limitations are just self-perceived and self-imposed. So we can grow beyond them. So that's what this process has been. And, you know, so like 4.5 years ago, I got into it deeply with the breatharianism, and I did a 4.5 day dry fast. And then, you know, that was just enough for me to break that concept in my mind that you had to drink water every 3 days or you would die, you know.
Right.
And and then I just started practicing liquidarianism. Anything you can do for 30 days or more, you can do as a lifestyle. So I committed myself to 30 days of liquidarianism, and that went on for 4.5 years. And then just this year, and this is the way I suggest people do it, is just follow your body and your consciousness when they connect up. If you try to push, my brother says, it's kind of crude, but it's funny. He says, love is like a fart. If you have to push, it's probably shit. You know, that, you know, this can happen naturally as you just build it, you know. And so this summer, I just felt moved to start doing 23-hour dry fasts. I had been doing 16 to 18-hour dry fasts every day and juicing the rest of the day, having whatever teas and juice and broth I wanted just at my leisure, you know. And then I moved in to this over the summer, and it's been amazing. I love it. I feel more energetic, more clear, and it is also breaking that concept in my mind that I need it, and that I'm really very aware that, especially with what I have when I'm breaking my fast, like I go ahead and have like a juice feast. I'll have like, you know, a bunch of melon juice and like my superfood shake and like my Taoist herbs and like a chocolate drink, and, you know, like that it's really just satiating that part of me that just still wants some stuff. And that was actually some of the recommendations from Ellie Tom. At a certain point, I was already liquidarian, and he told me, eat once a week with your family, you know, just so you stay connected with them. And that it's all about like wrapping up these relationships. You know, you want to, if you have, you know, like an intimate relationship with, you know, a woman or something, and it's coming to an end, you want to like wrap that up in a good way. You know, you want to leave on good terms, so it's not dragging you out, dragging your energy out. Same with the foods. Like if you still love chocolate and you're trying to be a breatharian and you don't give it, you never give it to yourself until you're really done with it, it will be like pulling at you. So it's learning to, you know, press out and push out into new realms and practice with consistency, you know, for success. And at the same time, give yourself enough allowance that you're not like being hard on yourself or being too rigid, you know, but being flexible. So that's why I'm still juicing for an hour. I feel like I've actually been fully pranic for some time, but to come home after a day of working in a garden and sit with my family around the table and have something, give myself something, you know, It's something emotionally at this point still need, you know. So that's kind of why I'm
That
at where
makes
I'm at.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I know in time there'll be a time where I transition. You know, I'll get that inkling from within again, where I'm like, okay, it's time to push out. You know, I'm stuck here. I'm stagnating. You know, and we're like trees. We're meant to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. So
Yeah. Well, do you do like classes and courses there in New Mexico? Or, I mean, I know you got this Eventbrite thing coming up online, so talk about that also. But I'm wondering, like, do people come to where you are and like set up a tent or something and spend a week with you and learn all about permaculture and herbal medicines, or how does that, you know, can they do that, or how does that work?
yes, you know, most of our classes we do as day classes, where we'll take people out foraging in the forest, you know, or we'll teach about permaculture or cob building, which is building with mud, you know, things like herbal medicine making, and then my pranic and fasting classes. But we also offer once a year a 2-week full permaculture design certification course that's hands-on,
Okay.
where people are with me for 2 weeks, and we, you know, talk about permaculture design techniques. We do hands-on learning in the food forest here. We go gathering things from the forest to make into tinctures and salves, and you know, we do fermentation, and you know, basically all the homesteading skills and permaculture design stuff that we can cram into 2 weeks. And you know, and we start every morning with, you know, some Qigong and some, you know, medicinal mushroom teas and stuff like that. So it's kind of an immersion into this natural lifestyle. And we love doing that. And I intend to hold more, maybe longer pranic, you know, and fasting courses for like maybe 3 or 4 days, where we can explore with dry fasting or juicing, depending on where you are in your level of, you know, willingness. And, you know, just do all the pranic practice, do sungazing and Qigong, and, you know, share downloads and tricks and tips on how I've managed, you know, to do this for myself, you know. And so, and then, yeah, I'm going to be doing periodically online stuff, because I do have people, you know, in distant places that would like to join, you know, that can't necessarily take that time away from work, or, you know, jump on a plane, you know, or what have you for a day class, you know, but want to get a download. So I will be, you know, continuing to teach mostly around prana with that. I would like to do some herbalism stuff, but it's a bit hard to figure out how to do it, because up in the forest I don't get good like signals, so I can't like walk through the forest and show people herbs, for instance, you know, as well. But I can do a bit of that here, so I plan on doing some of that, and permaculture design, if I get enough people who are interested in doing that, reaching out to me, because its design system is something you can apply anywhere in the world, you know. And Bill Mollison challenges his students that you can grow 8 acres worth of food on 1 acre with this design system.
Wow.
So that whole thing, you know, all these practices are all ways to remind us that nature is abundant, that we are sovereign and free, you know, that this is actually a heaven realm. You know, if we create as divine creators, we can create it as such, and we can create what we want with our lives. And that's why we're at where we're at. We had to have this kind of experience of contrast to find out what we didn't want, you know.
Yeah.
But
the earth can be heaven or it can be hell, depending on what you think.
Yeah.
So I guess people can find out about all your offerings on your website, ziapermaculture.com. So now I want to ask you to explain that ZIA. What's the story behind the name of your website?
Zia is the Native American sun sign, and it's the symbol on our state flag from the Zuni Pueblo, or the Zia Pueblo rather, and it's basically this recognition of the sacredness of the sun, and that our bodies and the bodies of plants and everything around us is here because of the sun and the interaction with the sun and the earth. And so, Zia is on the one hand like a humble bow to the native people who lived here and had sacred ways of interacting with nature and their bodies and spirits, and at the same time a recognition of the sun and its importance, as well as a recognition of our state. So that's what the Z is about.
Okay, cool. Are you what's life like for you and your family and homesteading in New Mexico? Are you like married with children? Like how many? What's your daily life like? Are you out? Do you kids go to school, homeschooled? Are you like out miles and miles and miles away from the nearest next person, or just over the hill to a big metropolis?
We're in an old agricultural community. My wife is a 9th generation Chimayo weaver. So weaving and agriculture was
9th generation what?
Weaver.
Okay, cool. Like the
rugs,
geometric stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful rugs, and made with sheep wool and dyed with native plants. So I have a wife and 3 sons. My youngest just turned 18, so they're adult now, and
cool.
we homeschooled, home birthed, homesteaded with them. They definitely got to the point, around high school where they wanted to get off the farm, So then they started, exploring public schools and things like that, But we brought them up learning how to forage and grow food and take care of their health, and feel proud in those steps that we took for them. But yeah, in my daily life, I'm still install permaculture gardens for people. That's the main part of my livelihood is that, and my classes and my herbal tinctures and superfoods. So on a general day, I get up and do all my sungazing meditation practice and stuff, and then I go and work in a garden, either my garden or someone else's garden.
Oh wow! So you're like setting up your ideal life.
Yeah,
you're doing the thing that you love to do.
100%. I mean, and then the other things we do is like health consultations and our classes. So it's really great. I just get to connect with awesome people and share this thing that I love doing, or spend my time, in the sun, in a garden with the flowers and the birds, and, making food for people, helping, sequester carbon and make this transformation on the planet, and, keeps me physically and mentally and spiritually engaged in that way, and it's a lot of fun. As my kids are getting older and stuff, my wife and I are looking at, after being on the homestead for 20 years, like we're interested in some travel. We met playing music, so we want to play some music some more and stuff like that. But other than that, that's it's been a very idyllic life. It's been.
What instrument?
I'm a drummer.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say you kind of look. You look like a drummer. Let me just get it out. I don't know why I say that.
That's cool. I am one.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super fun, and it's just vibration of joy. Like it's the way we're supposed to be doing as creators. Everyone is a creator. We've been sold the false bill of good that we're consumers. So we overconsume food stuff, and we overtake from the earth, And, but really our joy is in the things we create, our businesses, our families, music, art, gardens, things like that are more natural to us than this separation consciousness and consumption, sort of modality of being, so.
Yeah, it's like shifting out of separation consciousness into unity consciousness. And it's like, when that shifts, the whole paradigm shifts, and it's completely different. It's like you're on the world, but in the world, but not of it, or you're in a completely different reality from the person next to you.
Yeah.
And you just what you see is not what other people see.
Right, and we're meant to be in like communion and community. People, they've done studies on this, and it really affects people's health and longevity. To feel that sense of community and being,
as opposed to this like every independent, every man for himself kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, that Darwinistic idea of dog eats dog, survival of the fittest, moved into sort of social realms, which they're finding now more and more that that's not really the case, that nature works more on synergy and community and harmony and equilibrium with different systems, and not that other mentality.
At least the sickness and breakdown of the individual and the society, and even the people at the top who quote unquote win suffer from it more than any benefits they might get.
Yep, exactly. So that's something I seek to change, and I think that it's that, like you said, if we can just do this, Buddha has a quote, if we could make one person happy, and that was ourselves, and if everyone just did that, we would have world peace. And so it's an imperative to the collective and to the environment that you find your greatest health and happiness, and you, like you're saying, it's going to raise the vibration. When you raise your vibration, you're going to start raising the vibration of those around you, and then that just trickles it and grows, and so that's how we're going to transform the earth. It's not going to, and our culture, it's not going to come from governments and systems that are seeking to solve it as a problem. It's more us as individuals getting into our heart and our happiness and our love, wisdom, compassion, vibration for one another and the whole planet, and then we can really start having fun.
And you're contributing to it from New Mexico.
Yeah, I'm just living my best life. It's fun out here. I'd love to go to St. Croix sometime, though. Definitely been looking at the U.S. Virgin Islands and that area.
Yeah, for sure. You could come. For sure. We put you up for a while.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking behind you, it looks kind of similar. Like we have a lot of sunshine. Yeah, I mean, I moved here, like I tell people, I just came to St. Croix by random chance, basically. Got sent for a job, and I didn't really want to come. And before I visited St. Croix, I had a list of like 5 places I'd like to live if I could get a job there. After St. Croix, I had a list of one place I have to live no matter what it takes.
Nice.
And that was St. Croix.
Yeah.
It's really nice here. And because I think because the environment is so beautiful, it's like conducive to the average person, even somebody who's struggling, is just more
more
open
prana.
and welcome. Yeah, more prana.
Yeah, beauty feeds us too. We're
now you can feel the energy. Like we got off the plane at the airport, you could feel how good the energy was.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
I think it's a very healing place. People come here on vacation for a couple of weeks. When they get here, they look half dead. When they're leaving, they're full of energy and life. And they think it's from lounging on the beach, but it's the energy. It's from getting in the water, getting the sun, earth, air, water, and fire. You almost can't help get it. Even if you know nothing about it.
Yeah.
People go in the
It's so natural to us, just get out in the sun today for 5 minutes and pay attention and see how much, better you feel just from that little time with the sun,
So
it's breaking up. Shadow, go on, boy. I think I lost you, brother. I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes.